I'm Arthur Moats, and I'm here to tell you about my new book, The Moats Theory of Life. If you haven't picked up a copy yet, I strongly encourage you to. This book not only is a fun read, but it's a guide to helping you become a person of impact and inspiration. If you are ready to take the next step to improving not only your life, but those around you as well, go get a copy of The Moats Theory of Life, and it's available at moatstheory.com. What's up? It's the Arthur Moats Experience with Deke. I'm Arthur Moats, and that's my main man, Deke.
What's up, dude?
Dude, I'm loving the jersey, bro. You got the Sid the Kid, the captain.
Yeah.
It's my favorite hockey player, man. I ever since he came to the league, where I was like, yo, that's the LeBron James of hockey. Like, that's how I always viewed him. Like, young, just taking over, just crazy talented, man. Extremely hard worker. Love Sid the Kid, bro.
He's pretty good, man.
Yeah, man.
I just wish I feel like a fraud wearing it because we've talked about this before. I'm not the biggest hockey guy, so I don't watch them too much. But hey, Pittsburgh, Crosby, Pens. Why not?
Like, funny
hockey jerseys are dope to wear though too.
They are. They're clean look, man. Funny thing for me, when I first left Buffalo and came to Pittsburgh, that was probably I was probably more excited to be in Pittsburgh because Sid the Kid played here. And then after that, it was like, oh, and Troy. And it was, oh, and Big Ben. But for me, Sid the Kid was like, yo, like, I'm about to be in the same city as Sidney Crosby. Like, this is nuts. Because obviously growing up in Virginia, like, we didn't have our own. I mean, we had like the Norfolk Admirals was like a smaller, like minor league version of them. But in DC, which isn't that far, you would hear a lot about Alex Ovechkin. And for me, I was like, man, he's missing his teeth. It was a weird vibe. I'm like, man, I got my teeth. I can't relate to this dude. And then you see Sid, and it's like, okay, I like this guy. And it reminded me the Sidney Crosby versus Alex Ovechkin dynamic was kind of like LeBron and Carmelo Anthony dynamic. So for me, I was like, I'm a LeBron and Sid guy because those are my guys. And then I'm like, you know what? I don't like Melo and Ovi. I mean, that changed over time, but at the time it was like, you got to pick a side. So I picked my side. So yeah, man. So you pulling that jersey out, man, makes you feel good.
Well, I do remember those days because even though I'm not big into hockey now, I was in high school and early college. I used to watch like every game. I don't know what happened. I grew out of it. I don't know if that's the best way to put it or anything, but I do remember the Crosby and Ovechkin just rivalry. It was crazy, some of those playoff series. But what I wanted to touch on, what was crazy, though, with the Crosby-Ovechkin thing, Ovechkin got way more publicity in the mainstream. Like ESPN, they were doing little series with him, and they were always talking about him like he was the GOAT, whereas Crosby was the one actually doing the winning. So I always found that interesting. Maybe it's because of Ovechkin's goals, his flash, whatever.
I thought, too, the goals, and I thought market-wise, him playing in D.C., compared to Pittsburgh, like DC is a lot more media surrounding it, obviously because it's the nation's capital and things like that. But I thought that played a role in it. But Sid, man, Sid's so dynamic. And I just love when I see a crazy talented guy that has a work ethic to match it. Because a lot of times we talk about this even in football. You get guys who are crazy talented, but they don't have that work ethic. And when you get the guy who has that talent and that work ethic, that's where you get greatness. And for me, man, just anytime I was able to see Sid, even when I would go to the Sabres games in Buffalo, and it's like, oh, anytime the Bengals are in town, I'm like, I'm gonna go to this game. I got my Sabres jersey on, but I'm here to see Sid.
Dude, you're a politician, man.
Come on, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, man. So that's how I would roll with it, man. But dude, that's it. I mean, we even talked about it in my house. It's only 3 jerseys hung up. You've seen them.
Yep.
It's mine. It's my boy Troy. First ballot Hall of Famer, Troy. And then Sid the Kid, man. That's it. No other jerseys up right now, man. Like, those are the guys, man. So for me, man, you having that on, man, it touched me, man. I appreciate you bringing that in here.
I'm glad I could bring the good vibes.
Yes, indeed, man.
But we got a lot here. As much as there's not much going on in the sports world
there's
right now.
Always stuff to talk about.
In terms of just, I guess, current news or current events, where there's not much popping right now. But we got a lot to talk about.
It's all perspective, though, because when you say it's not a lot, when you think about free agency still going on, still going strong. Also,
there's no moves, though. What moves?
For the Steelers, there hasn't been any moves this week, but they made, 4 moves last week? I mean, you greedy. Don't get greedy. Do not get greedy.
No. I'm not being greedy, but I'm just saying, that's my point. We don't have anything this week.
Oh, who does it? And then on top of that, The owners officially voted that the playoffs be expanded.
I mean, that's old news, though. We
That's
knew that
not
was
old
happening.
news. No,
we knew it was
I'm just
happening.
saying, it was half of it was there. The other half wasn't. So that's officially done. So yeah, it's still stuff going on, man. Come on, man. Just because you only get caught up in the player side of it, there's a lot that goes on, man. A lot. You gotta get in tune, man. Unplug. So you watch too much South Park. And by the way,
What?
I don't know if you saw your social media, but mine, it was a lot of Family Guy.
I got a lot of South Park. Dude.
I looked on yours. It was way more Family Guy than South Park.
I don't know about that. Dude.
It was way more. I started to go through and tag you. So I started tagging you in each Family Guy, and I got tired because like it's too many people up here.
I did. I would like to go back and take a tally because I'm thinking it's leaning more South Park. But I'll tell you this though, the comments for South Park are deep. They are.
Oh, whatever. No, they're
rooted.
Not.
They're rooted. There's emotion. There's passion. Whereas the Family. I like Family Guy.
Nah, everybody was like, yo, it's not even close. Family Guy.
The South Park people know South Park. No, you just know that it's above anything else. And
not at all.
The people that get it, they get it, and they really get it.
It's just not a lot of y'all. That's all. It's cool, man. Y'all you got a cult following, bro. It's cool.
There were though, and I think if we look at the tallies,
hey man, it's all good because you made it like it was. Man, it's South Park. It's not even close. Like, you greatest show all time. That's what you told me, man.
I still stand by that.
You said greatest show all time. I did not see a lot of that.
I agree with that.
People were looking at you like, what? It's not the greatest show all time. What do you mean? It's not even top 5.
It just is, dude. I mean, you have all the elements in there. You have philosophy, you have comedy, you have storylines, plot twists, funny characters.
So why are people picking Family Guy over South Park then if it's all these things?
I mean, you saw some of the comments.
if all of these things are what you say they are, why is it that
my South Park people made the comments for me? I don't want to be ripping on people, but
hey man, it's all good.
There's just levels. South Park people, you're up here. Family Guy, it's
I'm just saying, man. I know you're a majority guy. Like I tell you, for me, it wasn't gonna sway me either way. But I know you're a majority guy. You like to have your finger on the pulse of the people. And yeah, the people weren't with you on South Park, bro. They're with you. They're with me on Family Guy, unfortunately.
See,
okay, bro.
I don't know how much. I mean, I don't care if people agree with me or not, though. Man.
It's okay.
I really don't. I have my takes, and it is what it is. Like things I feel really strongly about, and I mean that's one of them. It is, dude. It is. That's because I know I'm right on it.
If you say so, man. As long as you know in your heart, that's all that matters.
I mean, I do know. So
all right, but look, we're gonna give the people what they came to hear, what they've come to see, and that is for us to talk sports. Now, there was an article that was recently released. This probably would have been a week ago, tops, 2 weeks, right before free agency started. Because we've been sitting on this article for a little while from ESPN.
Right. And then TB signed with the Bucks.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened.
That's what it was, yeah. Because we were like, we're going to come here. We're going to talk this. Oh, Brady signed. Oh, we're making moves. Oh, we made more moves.
Yeah.
And everything's got distracted, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now that we have a chance to come back and really hit this article, ESPN had wrote an article where they were talking about the best and worst free agent signings for each team since 2015. So it's important that we put 2015. That's the emphasis because anything before that does not count. We're not allowed to bring that in. So that's why when we talk about best free agent signings, I know some people will be like, Arthur Moats is the best free agent signing of all time. I understand that. Listen, I'm not one of those guys because I would never be biased like that, okay? But I'm not on this list because I was a 2014 signing, even though I did see a technicality where technically I re-signed in 15.
I know, I saw that too.
So I could like honorable mention myself, but we're not going to do that. So the ESPN article, the two players that they highlighted, they said for the best signing for the Steelers since 2015, they highlighted Joe Hayden. Mm-hmm. And even with that, there was still a little bit of communication, or I guess conversation about whether Joe Hayden was a traditional free agent signing because he didn't sign during the free agency period. He got released right before the season started and they were able to work out a deal with him. But that's the player that they named. And then for the worst signing, they said Ladarius Green, tight end that came over from it was the San Diego Chargers then. Yeah, man. So, without further ado, I guess we should start with the worst signings first. I would much rather do that. And
you want to go 3-1?
Yeah. So I was going to say, so what we're going to do is this. We're going to talk about our top 3 best signings, top 3 worst signings. And we'll go, like you said, 3-1. So we'll start at our third worst second worst, and then our absolute worst.
Do you want to just name the three?
And then we break it down?
Yeah, because like we'll probably have some crossover.
Yeah. So you want to go first or you want me to go first? Because we're just naming them right now.
Yeah, we're just naming them. That's kind of what I mean. Okay.
So for me, my third was Morgan Burnett.
Okay.
My second was Dante Moncrief, and then my first was Ladarius Green.
Ooh,
all right, so let me hear yours. Go ahead, man. Let's hear yours.
Come on, dude.
We're gonna get into it because I feel like we're gonna differ a lot on some of these.
Moncrief is one.
As in like the
number one.
Number one.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going opposite.
Oh, but you said go 3-1. How you gonna say go 3-1 and then go 1-3?
I think it's because you got me heated with your list.
All right, let's go, man.
Even though, I mean, we got the same guys.
All right, let's go,
just
man.
The order.
Let's go.
Moncrief 1, 2 is Burnett.
Wow.
And here's my issue.
Oh, come on, man. You just name your 3 first before we get to your issue, all right?
I guess we'll have to talk about it.
So who are your 3?
Listen, dude.
So hold on, who are your 3? I'm confused.
Ladarius Green, I guess, is 3 just because I couldn't find another guy. But LeGarrette Blount was 2014.
So it doesn't count. You can't throw him in there.
All right, dude. Then
you can't. So why even bring him up? You can't put anybody from 14 in there, man. Because if that's the case, I could have been like, oh, what about Cam Thomas? Or some people even said Lance Moore. But it's like, man, we're not talking 14 class. We're talking 15 because that's what the article said. So, and I'm surprised by you because when we had this conversation off the mic, when this article first came out, there was a different name that you named.
Mark Barron.
Yeah.
Actually, man, dude, I might need. It's tough because. Well, what was Barron's contract?
Nah, come on, man. We're gonna get into that. I got all that down. We're gonna get into that. But I just want to hear. So, who are your 3? Your 3 are.
Let me put it this way.
You said you said Dante Moncrief first, Morgan Burnett is second, and then are you going Ladarius as your third? Who's your third? No. Man?
I more or less wanted to talk about the Ladarius Green stuff.
So hold on, who's your third though?
Well, no. Here's my thing. Because initially I did say Mark Barron. You talked me off the ledge with that. Because you were like, listen.
I shouldn't have had that conversation. I should have just let you say it, man.
No. Because, you said, listen, he came in, he started, like, I think it was all 16 games.
15. Played 15.
Yeah, he had a bunch of tackles. He did a role that we needed for him to perform. Whereas Ladarius Green only played, I think it was literally 6 games.
6 games, yeah, man.
But in those 6 games,
34 catches, 304 yards, 1 touchdown.
I mean, there was 2 games where you're just like, all right, this could have been really something. The Colts game and the Giants game. So I don't know how many snaps he had in the other 4 games, but so it's tough. So, all right, do we want to start with Ladarius Green? That you have him number 1.
I have him as my worst, yeah, and that's my guy. Like, he was a good dude.
Yeah,
but we're not talking about personal. We're talking about just like the football. All
right, for both instances though, you have Mark Barron and Ladarius Green who are cut after 1 year.
Hold on. So what are we debating right now? Because for me, I have Ladarius as my number 1.
I'm not debating.
Moncrief as my number 2. And Morgan Burnett as my 3.
I'm trying to talk through this and understand why you would think Ladarius Green.
Why he's my 1?
Yeah, we could just say 1 or even worse than Mark Barron.
Yeah. I don't even have Mark Barron on my worst list.
No, I know that, but I have considered it. We'll put it that way.
Okay, so we'll break it down. So the reason I have Ladarius up there,
and here's the thing too. I'm sure a lot of other people would think Mark Barron because that was my knee-jerk reaction as well.
So I guess this is why. So when we first look at their contracts, Mark Barron signed 2 for $12 for $5.75 million. Ladarius Green 4 for $20 and ended up getting 6 fully guaranteed that first year. It would have been 11 if they would have kept him on the roster going into.
He only got 6 guaranteed.
No, it was a 4.75 signing bonus, but he ended up getting 6 because he played that first season. He was supposed to get 11 if he would have been on the roster. I think it was in March that following year. So it would have been a total of like 17 million if he would have been on the roster, but they released him right before then. But then also, I don't know the details of afterwards, but
yeah, like how many did he get, or how much did he hit our dead cap?
So this is my thing, because I do know that he was trying to do some of the legal stuff because he was still technically hurt when we released him. So he was still trying to do some of the legal stuff to get some more of the guaranteed money out of that. I don't know how all that worked out, but just based on the numbers, him getting $6 million and having played 6 games with 34 catches, 300 yards, and 1 touchdown. For me, man, that's a bad deal. I don't care how you slice it, dead money or not. That's a bad deal. The productivity did not match that contract. Whereas when I look at Mark Barron signing a 2 for 12, and he ended up getting he got 5.75 out of that.
Mm-hmm.
The man played in 15 games, 1 pick, 3 PBUs, 82 tackles, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. And he was the starter opposite of Devin Bush. He took a huge workload off of Devin and honestly saved Devin early on. We talked about how at times we were like, man, Devin kind of struggling in coverage right now. We all did. And we would come here and say, hey, man, it's going to take Devin some time. He's young. He's got to adjust. He's learning. Right now, we're seeing how he's late on his reads. We broke down a couple of the films where you can see just the simple passes of a number 2 and number 3 receiver or a tight end and a running back and how he's late. The Seahawks game, how he was late because you can see his eyes. He's not trusting it just yet. Whereas Mark was playing faster. But on the flip side is they put Mark in a lot more of those tougher situations.
I was going to say people would probably rebuttal that and say Barron was struggling in coverage too.
But Mark drew the tougher assignments. And let's be real about it. Devin is the better athlete, but Devin wasn't ready to have those coverage assignments, which is why Mark was playing more than Devin at a time. But when you look at that for the amount of money they were paying Mark, man, at least he was out there playing, available, starting, being productive, regardless of if it was up to our standard or not. And of course, it's easy to point when you're in coverage and say, well, man, his guy's making the catch. He sucks. It's like, dude, I don't want to hear that because when you're in coverage, man, a lot of times, especially the matchups that he was drawing, he was going to be at a disadvantage. But at the end of the day, it's, hey, man, tackle the catch, get off the field. And let's be real, our defense was elite. So it wasn't as if he was your worst player, it wasn't as if this defense was struggling in any regard in that term, in terms of that. Because if that was your worst player on the defense, your absolute worst player, he still was crazy productive. And as I looked at it, whereas when we look at Ladarius, 34 catches, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, that's not enough. And I understand we could talk about 2 games, but what about the other 4 games? And then you talk about the 10 games that he didn't even play in.
That's what I'm saying. I don't remember us utilizing him that much in those other 4.
So I don't
know whose fault that is or what. But
so all I'm saying is for the money that he signed for, the money that he ended up walking away with, and the money that he was in line to get, like for me, that's a bad deal.
I don't know. It's tough. Are we gonna hold the injuries like that against him, though?
It's a part of playing. Is it not a part of playing?
I mean, it is.
Is it not a part of playing?
But in terms of the idea and what he was there to do, and then when he was on the field.
So then my question is this. Why don't you use that same excuse for Moncrief, who was highly documented that he dislocated and broke fingers in training camp?
Because when he was on the field, he didn't perform.
Bro, because he had drops. His stats, he had Dante Moncrief, 7 games, 4 catches, 5 drops. Remember, everybody talked about how he was open the Patriots game, but dropped everything. Oh, Moncrief sucks. And we're like, dude, he has broke fingers playing wide receiver. Same conversation with Sammy Coates. Remember that?
No, right.
When he was healthy, he was catching, scoring touchdowns. Fingers got broke. It's hard to catch in the NFL with broke fingers. So we can't poo-poo Dante Moncrief for having drops and not being productive when his fingers were broke. But then in the same vein with Ladarius Green, now we want to say, well, it's not his fault that he was dealing with concussions and injuries.
Well,
we can't hold that against him.
He wasn't on the field, though. He wasn't.
Either way, he was hurt.
Giving us a negative impact.
If he's not on the field, but he's getting the contract he's getting, that is a negative impact because that money could have went elsewhere.
Yeah, but then if you throw him in there and he's getting drops on top of that, that's even worse.
If he was out there and he was running the wrong route because he couldn't remember because of concussion, that's just as bad.
Yeah, I mean,
so what are we saying
how are we able to document that or know what's going on there? So just because
you can't document it doesn't mean it doesn't have the same weight.
I mean, are we saying that's a common thing or that's happening?
All I'm saying is if the guy played in 6 games and he only had 34 catches, 300 yards, I don't want to hear any excuse. It's a production league. He wasn't productive. And the money he was getting paid.
Dude, but for a tight end, 300 yards in 6 games, that's pretty solid.
Stop it.
How is it not?
Stop it,
Wouldn't
man.
you say a 6 to 700 yard year for a tight end is solid?
Okay, solid. I'm not paying 4 for 20 for solid, though. I'm paying 4 for 20 for the George Kittle type season, the Zach Ertz type seasons, the
that's
900.
Only $5 million, dude.
Bro.
We just paid Eric Ebron $6 million.
Listen. He got 6. Ebron had 13 touchdowns a year ago. What are we talking about?
He never had over like 700 yards.
Bro, he still had a 13 touchdown season 1 season ago.
Yeah, I know. I'm just talking about yards.
Bro, all I'm saying is he had 1 touchdown. 1.
All right.
You just said with Ebron, you said we're paying Ebron this, but Ebron has 13 touchdowns in one season. Dude, if you're not going to have the yards, at least give me the touchdowns. You're either getting touchdowns or you're getting yards. Which one are you getting?
Dude, that's a productive. Which one are you getting? If you span that out over the course of the season, that is a solid year. But how are we spanning it out when he wasn't available? He got $6 million for 6 games. And that's my point. When he was on the field, he was productive. So that's
so in 6 games, he was crazy productive, huh?
That was good. That's solid production.
6 games. That was crazy productive. Dude, 6 games.
Hold on, 6 games. So what is that? Times 2 plus I don't know. That would probably be between 700 or 800 yards over the course of a season. That's production.
That sounds like a myth. That sounds like I'm guessing, I'm hoping, I'm wishing.
No way.
That's not what I'm seeing right here.
No, dude, it's just a multiplier. If you times that over the course on what he was on pace for.
So every game he was doing that, every game he was productive like that.
Dude, versus
you can't just say 2 games, bro.
I'm not saying 2 games. Bro. We can say over 6 games.
Bro,
he had
all
300 yards over 6 games.
Moncrief got $3.5 million. Ladarius got $6 million.
So I don't care. I would take that that $1 million difference with the production both of them gave.
I'm cool on both of them, man.
Bro.
All I'm saying is if I'm giving
Moncrief did nothing.
Bro, Moncrief was hurt.
Yeah, but
at least he was on the field.
And making drops. Like that's my point.
His fingers were what do you expect?
Bro,
so you rather he just sat out there?
Yeah, he was negating us on the field.
Oh my goodness.
He had a negative impact when he was on the field.
And what did Ladarius have then?
A positive impact, 300 yards in 6 games.
That's super productive, man.
Dude, come on.
Super productive. 1 touchdown. All right, dude, you win it, bro. 4 for 20, man. Anybody that gets 300 yards, 1 touchdown as a tight end, play 6 games. I'm going to give you a 4 for 20. That makes perfect sense.
Listen, so that's $5 million. If Ebron has $6 million in his contract per year.
Okay.
Dude, if he gets 700 or 800 yards, I don't care about the touchdowns.
I care about the touchdowns. Touchdowns win games. Yards aren't.
Yeah, but either way, I'm not worried about I'm not worried about touchdowns. If you times that, like I said, over 2, so that could have been 3 or 4 touchdowns for Green. 700-800 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns.
We don't know that though, because that's not what happened.
That is a good season, but that's,
is that what happened?
But that's what the production tells you. And
it does not tell you that. It's a small sample size. Who knows what we was going to do the rest of the time? Who knows? It
would have even been better,
or would have been worse.
It would have been better,
or could have been worse.
If we're just speaking for the production in that 6-game span, that's solid.
All I'm saying is it's not solid enough for the money that he was making.
Bro, that's only, what would we say, a $2 million, $1.5 million difference versus Moncrief?
All I'm saying is it wasn't.
And Moncrief, how many yards did he have? He had 10 yards?
Bro, Moncrief signed a 2 for $9 million deal. That's chump change. Ladarius was going to make $11 million if he would have been on the roster an extra month.
That's why we cut him, though.
Either way,
so if we're talking about the money that they got and the dead cap.
It's not a good deal, man.
Come on,
It's not.
No.
It's not.
I'm definitely, I don't want to have Green on this list.
All I'm saying is this: if you're the GM, you're giving all 4 for 20s, and that's the production you're getting, you're probably gonna have a terrible roster. That's all I'm saying, bro.
Dude, if you're putting out,
he played 6 games.
Would you say Moncrief was?
Moncrief was 2 for 9. He only got 3.5.
If you're giving out 3.5 for the production Moncrief gave, you're not sticking around if you're a GM either.
He got 3.5.
That's worse.
What?
That's what, dude? 3.5 million. Bro. For what? 20 yards? 30 yards? I don't even know. And how many drops?
4 for 20.
5 million. If we're just breaking it down, then 5 million for 300 yards in 6 games.
Don't say 5 million. He got 6 million. He was going to get 11 the next season.
All right, we'll say 6
million. So don't try to make it like, it was only a 5-year average. It wasn't. He got 6 the first year. He was going to get 11 the second year.
That's a $2.5 million difference. And those 2 games that I am talking about, he definitely helped us win those games.
Okay, and I agree with that. But what about the other ones that he played in?
Dude, Moncrief didn't help us win any of these games.
What about the other games that Ladarius played in?
Huh?
What about the other games Ladarius played in?
I'm not sure. We talked about that. I don't even care about that because you could span that over the 6 games.
Bro, stop.
Span that production.
So how do we know the 2 games weren't outliers?
Huh?
The 2 that you're talking about.
It's eye test, dude. He was beast, man. He was really good out there.
I agree. Ladarius could ball.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is for the money he got, he did not produce. That's it.
Well, that's fine, but I'm
and for me, when I look at who got more money, then he's the worst. He's the worst earner. Is that something for me?
Dude, he helped us win 2 games.
Congratulations.
Moncrief didn't help us win anything.
Well, you know who's throwing the ball too.
And
man.
if that's what I'm saying, dude. I'm giving
fingers, bad passes. There's a lot going on with that man.
I'm giving you the whole eye test thing too, but just aside from the eye test, 6 games, 300 yards, and a touchdown. That production is better than the other two players.
4 for 20
and I would
is a lot worse than 2 for 9.
I would take that million difference for that production.
I would rather have a 2 for 9 mess up than a 4 for 20 mess up. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know how much of it's a mess up though when he did help us win in those.
All I'm saying
games,
is if they're both playing the same line of games, I would rather have a 2 for 9 mess up than a 4 for 20 mess up. That's all I'm saying. You can cut it how you want to cut it. You can make it however you want to flip it and all that. If I'm going to mess up, right? If I'm going to, hey man, this deal didn't work out, that didn't work out. I'd much rather my didn't work out be a 2 for 9 than a 4 for 20. That's it, bro.
It's hard for me to say mess up like that with Green. It's just hard. It's just hard.
The money's there, man.
But dude, when you're comparing them to Burnett and Moncrief, I don't even think it's close. I think those two are over Green for sure, though.
See, the reason why I'm not going to put Burnett in there, Burnett played 11 games, and a lot of the reason why
Wait, you didn't have Burnett? Who'd you have?
I have Burnett as my third worst.
Yeah.
I said the reason I'm not going to put him over Green or Moncrief, though, is because Burnett played in 11 games. He played the most out of all of them, had 30 tackles, was a starter, and decided that he didn't want to go back out there because he was tired of playing linebacker. He said, I'm a safety and you're putting me at linebacker. And remember, that's why he was like, yo, give me a release. I don't want to do this. Because for safeties, it's different, man. You playing safety, you don't have to deal with the big offensive lineman every play. It's a lot smoother. But for him, because of the sub package ball, because at the time they didn't have a Devin Bush on the team. Remember, that was when it was oh my goodness, what's the Bostic. They had John Bostic and Vince Williams and LJ Fort. But at the time, LJ hadn't even emerged as like a cover linebacker just yet. So they were using Morgan a lot in the box. He said, I'm not happy doing this. I don't want to do this. Don't put me out there. And that's what that was. But even with that, I said at 3 for 14, I was like, that price is getting a little high, right? But when he was out there, he could play. He could produce. For him, he just said, I'm not playing in that box. That's not what I do. I don't get paid to do that.
Well, that's the interesting thing to me because I was looking up that signing, kind of like the history of it and everything. And dude, he was a really good player for the Packers, apparently. Yeah. And I remember whenever we signed him, though, we had Sean Davis.
They had just released Mitchell.
Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of fans, I can't remember my reaction. A lot of fans were kind of happy about that. Like, all right, this is going to be the guy.
They didn't like Mike Mitchell.
Yeah.
And they said, well, Morgan Burnett is going to be on a cheaper deal than Mike Mitchell. And they said that Morgan could be a better player because of the turnovers that he produced and things like that. But Morgan was coming here with the mentality that I'm playing safety like how Mike Mitch played. And in turn, they've said, no, we're going to put you in this box and use you as a cover linebacker.
And yeah, so we drafted Terrell Edmonds is what happened. I'm assuming that was kind of the kicker for that.
But yeah, well, that was what they were going to be grooming him and getting him ready to do that. But Morgan still, I mean, because even when you do draft a first rounder at your position, once you sign, you still earn the assumption like, hey, I'm here to play this position. So we can compete for it. And if you beat me out, that's one thing. But from the way Morgan talks about it wasn't even a competition. It was all right, first couple of games as safety, then after that, you're playing linebacker. And now he's like, I don't want to do this. And that's how that whole thing worked out.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know any of that behind the scenes.
So for me, I can't put him above Moncrief or Ladarius in terms of worst signings because I'm like, man, when he was out there, he was productive and he was a good player. He was available. But for him, it was I don't want to play in the box.
Right. So, yeah, I just got him above Green. I don't even want Green on the list, like I said. But I don't think anyone beats Moncrief, dude, as one. I just got Moncrief.
Said, I'm going to give a 4 for 20, and yeah, that's not bad. He's good. He shouldn't even be on the top 3 worst signings since 2015.
I don't want to have him on there. I can't.
So who would you put up there instead of him?
Because I can't.
You said Morgan Burnett. You said Moncrief. Who would your third guy
definitely be? I can't put anyone, man. Because, I mean, you made a good point with Mark Barron just because he played all those games. And then any of the other players with contracts that we signed, they're not matching the amount of money that he got paid.
Oh, man, but you said, man, 6 games, 300 yards, it doesn't matter.
Versus Moncrief and Burnett,
those two are 300 yards. Who cares about touchdowns? You said, right, I don't even care about touchdowns. That was the words of Deke.
I really don't,
You're crazy. How do you win games if you don't score touchdowns?
Well, here's my main thing, dude. So the $6 million for 1 year, that doesn't really bother me. It's the amount of how he got after we released him, whether it was the dead cap. That's why I kind of wanted to ask you at the beginning because I wasn't sure about that, dude. If it was just 1 year, $6 million, then we cut him, dude, that's nothing. That's why I don't even want him on the list. That's why I don't want him on the list.
$6 million for 6 games is nothing.
The idea of bringing
$6 million for 6 games is nothing.
The idea of bringing him
$6 million for 6 games is nothing.
I'll take those 2 wins he helped us.
You're crazy.
Dude, when you're stacking them up against Moncrief,
who only got
Burnett,
$3.5 million.
I don't even think it's close with those two with Ladarius Green. But anyway, if I'm just talking about
$6 million is different. That's all I'm saying. That's the difference of how much? What, 2.5?
If I'm just talking about Green, though, I did really like that signing.
I think we all did.
I've been wanting, I've been wanting Ben to have a athletic tight end for a while. Yeah. So that I do probably have a little bit of bias with that. You are a biased guy. We know these things, to where I just don't want him on the list. But I think objectively, Moncrief and Burnett are above him for sure. That's all. I
understand. You're always gonna be biased, and I got that, bro.
But I don't think that
I got that
in terms of his ranking in my top
the
three.
The fact that you're gonna try to put Morgan Burnett above Ladarius Green, that's bias, bro. Like, what are we talking about?
What games did he help us win, man? I mean,
what? He was a part of winning football. What are you talking about?
I don't know, man. In terms of in terms of us looking back on games,
this is my question.
Are you like, man, he really was an impact?
This is my question. So because one person has the ball in their hands, you hold more value for that, because you're saying the 2 games that he went out there and say he had 100 yards receiving in both of those games, right? For you, because you can see the 100, that's the impact. Whereas for Morgan, if he's covering a guy and that guy's not getting thrown to, or he's making his tackle or they're not giving up touchdowns, you don't hold the same weight on that. But for me, I see both sides of it. So you can't tell me that what game did I look and say Morgan Burnett was the reason we won. Morgan Burnett plays defense. If he's doing his job defensively, he's the reason why you're winning. If he was out here blowing coverages, we saw the game versus the Patriots where Sean Davis and Artie Burns had the miscommunication and they gave up the 70, 80-yard touchdown pass, right? That happens. Oh, now it's, man, that hurt us. But if they play and execute it the way they're supposed to, we're not even talking about it, right? So for you would look at that and say, well, they're not having an impact. I didn't see anything special. But if they did something negative, you would. So for me, you can't sit here and say, well, Morgan Burnett didn't do anything to help us win. I can't remember watching any game and saying, man, Morgan really did this and that helped us. Bro, he plays defense. If Morgan does his job, you should not talk about him. And that's going to help us win.
But that's the thing. Why are we talking about Steven Nelson then, though? Like, oh, he's had an impact. The
reason why we talk about Steven Nelson is because we're like, well, man, we know Joe. We know what Joe's doing. Man, but it's so cool now that you can't just throw over there to the other side now. Because now when you go over there, you got Steven who's doing his job. And that's the only reason why that conversation came up. But that's what I'm saying.
But that's my point. The dudes that have been balling out on the defense, we're talking about them because they are making impact. There's nothing about Burnett that we were like, oh, he really helped us win a game.
You're crazy.
No, I'm not, dude. Well, here's the thing.
But you don't even talk defense. So how would you, please tell me this.
I'm asking you,
how care about defense.
I'm asking you.
How would you dictate whether or not Morgan Burnett is having an impact? Because I can tell you, if a guy plays in 11 games.
I'm going more off money then.
I'm telling you for a fact, if he played in 11 games and he wasn't a bench rider when he was out there in those 11, he was out there. Then yes, he's helping this team win. He's having a big impact, because you don't play coverage in the NFL for more than 10, 15 snaps and not be good, because if you aren't good, you're going to look like Artie Burns, right? We talked about how Artie would get exposed. Keep going at him, keep going at him. Even when we talk Mark Barron, right? How, man, he's chasing after the guy. We never had these conversations with Morgan Burnett. We never was like, man, Morgan just looks like he's lost out there. Morgan just looks slow. Morgan just he doesn't give me enough. We never had that conversation. So how can you sit here and not say that he wasn't helping out?
Helping out versus impact. That's kind of the
so Ladarius, he was the only person balling out in that game. AB didn't ball out versus the Giants.
I'm not saying that. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I know for a fact that Giants game, Green probably had the most yards. No. You're talking. I think you're thinking about the Colts game. AB balled out.
The 2 games you said Ladarius balled out with the Giants and who?
And the Colts.
And AB went crazy in the Colts game. We know that.
For sure, the Colts game.
Okay, and who else bought out the Giants game? Since you're making it sound like Ladarius was the only reason we did it, because Morgan.
I'm not saying the only reason.
Because you're saying, are we paying that for somebody to just be a part of it or be the main reason?
He had a big impact on the offense.
Bro, offense is always going to be highlighted because you can see him with the ball. The same reason why I can sit here and say, well, who do you think had a bigger impact, Ladarius Green or Marquise Pouncey in those games? For you, you're going to say Ladarius because he has the ball. For me, I would say, what? Hey, man, if Pouncey ain't blocking, I guarantee it changed your whole perspective.
That's a good point, man. I mean, yeah, those are all good points.
So what are you saying then? So how can you say Morgan Burnett was a worse signing when Morgan Burnett played more and had more of an impact?
Not more of an. See, that's where we're going to disagree.
Because when you watch something, what are you looking at?
Dude, I know what
dictates impact for you. What dictates impact?
I know what Ladarius Green did, man.
So what dictates impact for you?
What year was that game? Was that
no. Ladarius 15.
15?
Yeah, because Ladarius only played 1 year here, man.
I think it was 16. Hold on. Yeah, here it is. I got it. Let me get it here. Box scores. Yeah, AB. He had 54. Oh. He had 54 yards. He did have a touchdown, though.
Okay.
6 catches for both of them. Ladarius Green had 110 yards and a touchdown.
Okay, so that was his one
11 targets, too.
And how many catches?
Ben was looking his way. 6 targets. Come on, dude.
All right. Okay. Well, a little over 50%. Okay, cool.
Those must have been throwaways. That Ben was,
here you go. Excuse King back at it again.
Those must have been throwaways from Ben.
Excuse King. And what was it? And go to the, you said the Colts game was the other one for him, right? So go to that one.
Well, we know AB balled out there.
I'm just saying, go to the Colts game.
Dude, I don't gotta go to that.
No, man, because what you said is like Ladarius was the only reason why the offense was moving.
I'm not saying the only reason, man. There was a big difference when he was out there, though.
So what about the other games he played? Let's see that difference as well.
I don't know how much they were using him.
Nah, you don't know how much he's using him. If you paying that guy that much money, he better be using them.
Maybe he was opening up for other guys,
or maybe AB was opening up for him.
AB's pretty damn good, dude.
Yeah, he opens it up for a lot of people, man.
Hold on, you want me to look up the Colts?
Yeah, go ahead, man. We got time.
I have no argument against it. This is nostalgic a little bit. This was on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's pulling up to 2019. Hold on. All right, 28-7.
It's a fun game.
Ben was eating the turkey leg after with AB and Bell. The times. All right, we got Big Ben with 3 touchdowns, 221 yards, QBR of 95.
We're not talking.
I know you didn't ask that, but
we're talking Ladarius right now.
It stuck out to me there.
I mean, I'm just saying, AB makes a lot of guys look good.
All right, AB had 91 and 3 touchdowns. Darius Green with 67 yards.
Dang, so he carried Ben to the turkey, huh?
Who?
AB.
Come on, dude.
Stop it. You already know what's up, man.
Stop, man.
And when did Le'Veon had that game too? Because Le'Veon had a turkey leg, so what did he have?
He did 120 yards and a touchdown.
Okay, so Ladarius he participated.
Dude, he was nice, man. 67
he was the
yards.
Third wheel.
67 yards.
He was the third wheel.
67 yards.
So he was the third wheel. So 67 yards is equivalent to Morgan Burnett having like a couple of tackles but being great in coverage. What are we talking about here?
I don't know about that.
Oh, so this is because you know why? Because you're not able to put a value on, man, I don't know what just
I'm not
looking at a coverage guy versus this guy catches the ball for 60 yards and I can say, oh, he got 60 yards. That's big. For me, I'm telling you, the impact is the same, bro. If you're covering a guy and you're making sure that they're not throwing him, he's not eating. And we've seen when linebackers eat 8 about him. We've seen that. We've seen it a lot. So the fact that Morgan was out there and producing in that regard, for me, I'm not going to sit here and say that Morgan was a worse signing when Morgan got less money.
I didn't see him out there enough. I'll just put it.
Which is
good.
Out there. So if you were watching him and you're like, man, I'm saying that we're talking about this dude way too much. I'm seeing him way too much. That's not good. The fact that you're not talking about the fact that he's
saying
doing
just
thing,
out on the field at all in general.
So you're not about to try him out like he wasn't out there.
No, I'm not acting.
Say, we're not going to do that.
I'm not acting like that.
But we also know this. The reason why you can say that is because prior to this year, what did you say? I never really cared about the defense. I watched offense. I was an offensive guy.
I watched the defense, but
I was an offensive guy. We've had this conversation. If it wasn't a guy getting a sack or a pick, you couldn't say what was going on. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And that's normal. Most people watch the offense. Most people do. So I'm like, that's not an issue.
I know. I feel like you're holding it against me.
I'm not. I'm just simply saying that's making your judgment on Morgan Burnett. I'm just saying that's making your judgment on Morgan Burnett be a little bit, was it convoluted or cloudy a little bit because you weren't able to fully understand the impact that he's having. And you see the difference when it was Vince and John Bostic out there. We saw what it looked like when they played the Chargers and Keenan Allen lined up as a tight end and went to absolute work on those linebackers. We remember that game. We all do. And we tried to mask it as, man, the false start was the reason why we lost. Oh, man, if they would have called the false start, they don't get that touchdown. No. Keenan Allen went absolutely bananas on the linebackers trying to cover him. And who wasn't out there? Morgan.
Maybe he should have been willing to put the team first and get out there.
Or he could say, man, I signed here to do this. Be honest to me.
I mean, I respect that too, but still.
It worked out for him. He went and got paid to go to Cleveland and then had the big impact game versus us. So we went there on Thursday night.
Listen, dude, this feels like I'm in the O.J. Simpson case right now. We talked about this 30 for 30 documentary a couple podcasts ago. You're doing a Johnny Cochran to me right now. You're hitting my credibility.
I'm just saying, bro.
Which
letting you know, man.
No, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I don't have credibility, so you're right to be doing that. That's kind of the thing.
I'm just simply pointing out the differences because for you, I know how you feel about Ladarius. I understand that. So you're always going to lean more in terms of, man, Ladarius wasn't that bad. He had 2 games. I saw this. This means he was balling.
Listen, I stand by my points.
I just, like I said, I back off of mine with the facts, and then I know what I saw from a film standpoint. And then with Ladarius, I was actually a teammate of his. So I remember that journey with him and why it was so frustrating for him because he wanted to be out there. It wasn't that he couldn't. I mean, it wasn't that he was saying that I don't want to play. It was like, dude, you're not healthy. You can't go out there. Because if you do, you can have long-term effects after this. And that was the most frustrating thing with him and with this whole situation. So for me, I'm very biased in terms of how I view Ladarius. But when we take that bias away and we're just looking at a contract standpoint, 4 for 20 for $6 million that he got $6 million in that year one, was scheduled to get $11 million that next year versus 3 for 14 and 2 for 9. For me, I don't care what you're saying, bro. It's the money doesn't equal up. Ladarius got more money.
Not too much though. That's kind of my point.
How do you classify too much? Is a $2 million difference more?
I don't really. I mean, $1 million or 2. How much you really caring about that?
When I'm only getting 6 games out of him, I care a lot. That's all I'm saying. Because I'm thinking to myself, we could have used that $6 million and put that. That could have been 2 people. Those 2 players probably would have got more than 300 yards in 6 games.
Yeah, but then you could say the same thing with those 2, where you could just, I could have taken that $3.5 million or the $4 or $5 million from Burnett and just got a better player.
So this is my thing though. So now, if we want to go down that line, that $6 million, you split that up, $3 million and $3 million, you're still getting a Morgan Burnett caliber player. Morgan only signed for 4.25. That's what he got. So that's not too far off. Now you split that 4.25 up. Now you're looking in the $2 million range. A little bit different. You split a Dante Moncrief 3.5.
2 to 3 million that's
a different type of player. What are we talking about? We talking about Jadeveon Clowney right now, right?
I'm saying a $2 million contract versus $3 million contract.
A $2 to $3 million difference isn't that big. Jadeveon Clowney wants $20 million.
I'm saying,
and now he said I'll take 17 to 18. That is a big difference.
I'm saying,
what are you saying?
Once you split it, it's between $2 million contract versus a $3 million contract. So it's only a $1 million difference.
That style of player is different.
A $1 million difference.
That style of player is different. That's all I'm saying, man. It's simple.
I mean, I don't know how much I'm gonna.
So why do some players get paid $1 million and then some people get paid $2 million? Or why do some people get paid $2 million and some people get paid $3 million?
I'm not sure.
Because they're better players. Their productivity warrants them more money. That's typically how it works.
I'm not going to hold the injuries like that against Ladarius.
So why do you hold it against Moncrief then?
Well, because when he was on the field, it was a negative impact.
Playing.
I know, it was a negative impact.
Remember what you say, man? He should probably put the team first, right? Team player. Now you bash him for it. Is that not what you're doing? You said, hey, didn't you say that about Morgan?
That was a joke, dude.
No,
come on, dude. It was a joke. You know it was a joke.
I'm just saying, he put the team first. He went out there, broke fingers.
You knew that was
did the same thing, and I remember, God is my witness. We had a conversation.
You knew that was a joke, though.
With Sammy Close, we had this conversation, right? Going into that Jets game, this was right before he's catching the ball, he's doing his thing. We're like, yo, he might be the next like Martavis. Remember, that was kind of like, man, maybe he's taking over because Martavis was dealing with suspension and stuff, right?
Yeah.
He breaks his hands, and we're like, yo, Sammy, we need you out here, bro. Like, because what you can do from a speed element, like, it's still just gonna open things up. Even though we know you can't catch right now, because I'm talking about his fingers were jacked.
Yeah, they were all taped up.
Jacked. Yeah. But it's like, yo, you being out there, it opens it up for everybody else. Also, what you bring on special teams, that helps us impact. So we got him out there. He's out there. He's running. He's still having his impact. But then when you see him drop the ball, what did everybody instantly went to, man, this dude sucks. He needs to get cut. Get him out of there. Get him out of there. And we're like, dude, he's only out there because we know the impact it's going to have on everybody else. It's going to open the offense up for other people because of his speed. We know on special teams, him running down there as a gunner, he's going to be the first guy down there. That's the only reason why he's out there right now. Now, he could have easily said, man, my fingers are broke. I'm sitting, I ain't doing nothing because I already know the ramifications of it.
It's a lose-lose, man. For the player.
But for me, I don't want to, all I'm saying is this. If I'm going to hold, if I'm not going to give Sammy Coates a pass on that, I'm not giving Moncrief a pass on that, and I'm not going to give Ladarius Green a pass on that. I keep them all the same. But for you, you're picking and choosing when you want to hold injuries against somebody versus not. You're saying for Ladarius, I'm not going to hold those injuries against him and why he wasn't out there. But I'm going to say that Dante Moncrief wasn't productive because he was dropping the ball. He's dropping the ball because his fingers are broke. He's playing through injury.
Yeah, I get that. But my point is, whenever he was out on the field, he made the impact. Whenever he wasn't, it was neutral then. It was just neutral.
How was it neutral?
It was neutral because he wasn't playing.
How's that neutral?
As opposed to Moncrief.
If you're getting that money and you're not playing, that's not neutral. That's a negative impact, period. Because that money could have went to somebody else who was going to be playing.
And dropping balls.
Bro, what are you saying right now?
No. What I mean is when Moncrief was out there, I've said this, that he was dropping balls and had a negative impact. I don't hear you talking about with Moncrief, he had that type of impact that Coates had where it's still opening up things.
Well, the thing with Moncrief was he happened to be the only receiver that was getting open. We talked about early on in the season, Juju wasn't getting open. We talked about early on in the season when Swish was getting the ball, he was falling down. We talked about early on in the season with James Washington, Deontay Johnson. So am I going to hold him getting open? Because you're not getting those targets if you're not getting open.
Why'd we cut him?
Because he was dropping the ball. Why did we cut Ladarius Green?
He couldn't stay healthy, man.
Sound like two guys were injured to me. And one guy made more than the other. So the guy who made more that couldn't play, he's the one that's worse for me.
Moncrief didn't help us win, though, man. That just goes back to my point.
But you can't say Moncrief didn't help us win when who was the quarterback during Ladarius' 6 games, even when he wasn't playing, who was still out there? Still was Ben. So that's going to make that team win more. For Moncrief, he had the one game with Ben, and now you're saying, well, he didn't help us win.
We're splitting hairs here, man.
We're not splitting hairs because when you just said,
we're talking about a lot of what ifs, man.
You just said he wasn't helping us win out there. And my rebuttal to that is the one game he had Ben, after that he had Ben for 2 quarters, and then after that was Mason and Duck. Nobody was helping us win. So where are you getting at right here? Please.
James Washington, Deontay Johnson were helping us win whenever they were out there.
So those 7 games that Moncrief played, the first 7 games of the season, Deontay Johnson and James Washington.
He was on the roster for that long? I think he only played 2 games.
I know that. But I'm asking you. So the 7 games that he was on the roster, the first 7 weeks of the season, Deontay Johnson and James Washington were balling out like that? You going to sit here and say that?
I mean, I know Deontay Johnson had a touchdown versus the Bengals early on.
Okay. And he had the one versus the Niners?
49ers,
okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you could tell Deontay was on a stride. It wasn't like...
So now we can tell Deontay, okay.
Huh?
Okay. If you want to sit here and lie like that, man, stop that,
lie?
Bro.
What do you mean?
Bro, you were not saying that about Deontay in the first 7 games of the season. We didn't start talking about Deontay until midway. Like, yo, this dude like he could produce.
No. Yeah, I'm not saying that.
But you just said...
No. Versus Moncrief, yes.
Bro.
Versus Moncrief, yes.
We were not comparing Deontay Johnson versus Moncrief.
No, we're talking about productivity with Mason Rudolph and Duck as quarterbacks. Moncrief didn't do anything.
None of the receivers were doing anything. None of these receivers were out here like, oh yeah, man, even though our quarterback play is bad, we know we got a guy right here. We kept saying, man, we don't know what we have. We were hyped when Juju made the play versus San Fran, but we talked about how, man, these quarterbacks at best are throwing for 150 yards. If we had a quarterback throw for 200 yards, we thought they were God.
Yeah.
So how are we going to sit here and say that we could evaluate a receiver when the quarterbacks weren't even getting 200 yards passing? We talked about how the offense was trash.
Deontay had touchdowns. He had some yards.
Bro, stop it.
I mean, Moncrief, he wasn't out, dude. I mean, it took 2 games and we benched him.
Stop it.
What do you mean? Stop what?
Stop it.
Come on, dude. I think I make some good points.
In your mind. I'm sure you do.
No, man. I guess with this then, like a lot of things, we could just agree to disagree. I stand by my points, though.
Yeah, but I mean, you want to put a guy that got 4 for 20. You don't even want him even on this worst list. We already talked about it, and I think that's where we differ. You are struggling to even have him as your 3rd worst signing. Worse for me, I'm like, it's clear.
I don't feel bad about it. I mean, I don't.
And like I said, that might be a little bit of the biasness because of how you were excited for him to get here. That's what I'm saying.
See, I don't know. Like Martavis's tenure with us. How would we categorize that?
What do you mean? I thought he balled out. At the same time, he had drops. At the same time, he didn't produce,
and he missed games.
Yeah, he missed a lot of games.
And that's my thing. I would categorize it still as positive, though. I wouldn't.
Yeah, but you're not going to sit here and tell me that Ladarius and Martavis were in the same vein of impact, though.
No, I'm not saying that.
Oh, I was going to say we're going here, man.
But we're comparing him, Ladarius, to Moncrief and Burnett. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I guess we could agree to disagree on it. But
yeah.
I stand by. I got Moncrief 1, Burnett 2. Although I do like your points that you brought up with Burnett, and kind of gets me thinking. But I'll just, for the sake of this, I'm sticking with him at 2, and then I'll have Green hesitantly, I guess, at 3.
All right. For me, we differ. I got Ladarius as the absolute worst one, Moncrief at 2, and then Burnett at 3. So cool. That's that.
It was a fun combo, dude. Honestly, like I mean, I always learn whenever I'm talking with you about football stuff. So,
and I think too, just that's the differences though of when you are watching just like the offensive side of it, like focusing on, because most people, if you haven't played defense, your understanding of impact is going to be different. Like when we talk about Javon Hargrave's impact versus Bud Dupree's impact, right? Bud had more sacks, but it really took people to start diving in to understand why Hargrave's impact is what it is. And then it's like, oh, that makes sense now. Whereas Hargrave had been doing the same things, but a year or two ago, nobody talked about it because there wasn't a conversation of either or. So no one had to focus in on that. And that's the difference. Whereas if we name offensive guys, we could also be like, well, man, I remember that guy. I remember this game. He made that catch. We talked about Jesse James here for so long. But was Jesse James ever in the same vein as a Heath Miller? Was Jesse James even realistically, if Ladarius stays healthy, would Jesse James even been in the same conversation as a Ladarius? I don't think it's even close. No. But we know he had the catch, no catch versus the Patriots, made a couple of, jump ball, touchdown, stuff like that. And it's like, man, I remember seeing that. This dude, he could ball. And it's like, dude, if that guy's on defense, we're saying, oh, man, he's all right. He's good, but he's not nothing. Like, he's not a TJ Watt. He's not spectacular. But that's the difference, though. Because
I never felt that about Jesse James.
I'm just saying, but a lot of people did, though. And obviously the Lions did too when you look at the contract they gave him.
Well, they're in the toilet right now. So.
I'm just saying, man. But when you watch people on offense, the casual person that doesn't understand, like when we talk about the impact of offensive linemen, like the people that aren't paying attention to offensive line, you only watch offensive linemen when somebody's getting beat. Somebody's getting sacked. And you're like, man, this dude sucks. What's going on here?
Unless things are going really well. Like the running game's killing it.
But even then, think about how long it took for people to start talking about the offensive line when Le'Veon was balling. It wasn't, oh man, look at this offensive line, they're killing it. It was like, man.
It took a year or two, I would say.
But why is that? Whereas you knew right away with Le'Veon because he's balling. You could see him with the ball in his hands.
Well, we just wanted a new running back, dude. We were getting sick of Dwyer and Redmond.
I understand that, but I'm just simply saying the majority of people that watch, they see the person with the ball in their hands and they put extra value on that player, not understanding that these people around them are just as important. And that's the thing that I always try to bring up when we're having these conversations, because when we have this conversation right here between Ladarius and Morgan, because you don't see Morgan with the ball in his hands, you devalue what he's doing out there. And I'm telling you, he's still as impactful as what Ladarius was doing. The difference is Ladarius has the ball in his hand. Ladarius scored a touchdown, and you can see that easy. And you're like, man, I don't have to know anything to know that he catch the ball. He ran. He looks good. He got yards. That's a great player right here. That's a ball. He's balling out. Whereas this guy over here, he might have 2 tackles, but he was in coverage where these elite, crazy tight ends, and he's doing his job. And that guy might have had 1 or 2 catches for 3 or 10 yards. And you're like, man, all right, I ain't worried about that. Out of sight, out of mind. Still impactful, though. That's all I'm trying to say.
I'll take that GOAT game against the Giants that Ladarius had over them, too.
The GOAT game.
The GOAT game. That was his GOAT game.
110 yards, 1 touchdown.
That was his GOAT game.
110 yards, 1 touchdown.
All right, so we want to flip it to some positive here.
Yeah, man. So you want to go first in terms of name your best?
Okay.
Are you going 3-1 or 1-3? You never know what you.
I'll go 3-1. See, this one's tough because I really like all 3. Man, I'll go Steven Nelson 3, Joe Hayden 2, D'Angelo Williams at 1.
Okay. So for me, I had honorable mention at 4 was Mark Barron. Then I had 3 D'Angelo Williams, 2 Steven Nelson, 1 Joe Hayden.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with my list and why I have D'Angelo 1 more based off the contract and him filling the need whenever Le'Veon went down, because we know how our offense looked whenever Le'Veon was out the year prior with I think it was Ben Tate in there.
Ben Tate, Josh Harris.
We even seen it whenever D'Angelo got hurt with Toussaint, that it's just our running game is not even close. So D'Angelo coming in, I think it was $2 million a year.
He signed 2 for $4. Got $1.1 million up front. It pretty much averaged out to 2, just depending on how they sliced that first year. But I know he got 1.1 to sign. But he was productive, man, with 25 games, 15 touchdowns, 1,200 rushing, 2 receiving touchdowns.
So if you look at that, I think it was his first year. It was the 2015 year. Whenever
that was his big year. Yeah.
Yeah.
He led the team in touchdowns that year.
Yeah, he played in 10/11 games because he came in for Belt whenever he went down in the Bengals game. Had 907 yards, 11 touchdowns, 40 receptions, 367 yards in 10 or 11 games for $2 million. That's just simply why I have him as my number one, just based off value. And then you look at the next guys. You have Joe Hayden at 2, Steven Nelson at 3. I think Joe Hayden is more for the glaring need of when we got him. We haven't had a cornerback like that it was probably 5 or 6 years since Ike Taylor was in his prime. Yeah. And that's probably even arguable right there. Who's the better cornerback in their prime is Joe Hayden versus Ike Taylor. Most people would probably lean Joe Hayden. He's got the Pro Bowls. He even made the Pro Bowl last year, whereas Ike Taylor never has one of those. So, yeah, we just didn't have that lockdown corner. We brought him in, and he's been with the team ever since and playing really solid. Steven Nelson is just kind of beefing up on that cornerback position. A lot of people were questioning it, and he's come in and has been pretty much locked down. I would say, just for the sake of this argument, not really looking into things, you would say, what, top 10, 15 corner in the league for Steven Nelson?
I would have to look into it a lot more. I'm not even going to lie, man. But for your sake, we can just throw it out there.
So there's that whole graphic with him versus Stephon Gilmore where Steven Nelson only let up like 500 yards and no touchdowns, certain amount of targets.
I understand all that.
So there's that. And he's balled out as well. So those are my 3.
I like it.
And my reasoning for the 3.
I like it. So I start, the reason why I had Mark Bannon as like the honorable mention, just like I said, when I mentioned his productivity early on and for the need that he addressed at the time, the need you talk about with D'Angelo coming in and filling as the running back when Le'Veon went down, we saw what that linebacker room looked like when it was Vince Williams, John Bostic, and LJ Fort. We talked about how, man, they need somebody who can do something, just be a little athletic, whatever it may be. Mark addressed that need. Mark was able to give the young boy Devin Bush time to grow, not to have to take on all the crazy assignments. He did all that. Now, granted, it's kind of like, man, you're putting him on the cross for it now, and I understand that comes with it sometimes. You're the sacrificial lamb. But he addressed the need, and it was cheap. But the reason why I have D'Angelo as my 3rd guy, man, I love the D'Angelo pickup, man. I was on the team obviously before, and I was on the team with him for the 2 years that he played. And you hit on it, man. You could see the difference, man, when Le'Veon went down and D'Angelo came in. D'Angelo at the time was the Panthers' all-time leading rusher. Like, the dude could ball. He had dropped weight, looked fast, explosive, and was still hungry. He was trying to get a ring. We all were. Man, so I love that, and I love the cheapness of the deal. Now, the reason why I have him at 3, whereas I have Steven Nelson and Joe Hayden ahead of him, is just because when I looked at the amount of games he played in, I felt like it still wasn't as much as those other 2 guys. When we're looking at Joe Hayden playing in 42 games, Steven Nelson starting and playing in 15 games and like out there every snap. We talked about D'Angelo. When Le'Veon was healthy, D'Angelo wasn't going out there. And we know the need that he filled. He was the depth guy. He was the, hey, man, if you get tired of Le'Veon, if you're injured, I got you. So for me, it's like I see the great value, great value. But for me, it's hard for me to put him above Steven or Joe just because the impact that those guys had on a play in, play out basis every game. So now when I go to my 2nd guy and I have Steven Nelson here, his contract warrants the productivity. I mean, he signed a 3 for $25, $7.5 million.
I was surprised at that. I thought it was $5 million. I thought it was like a 5 for 25 or something like that. And I looked at it and I saw it was actually a lot more. I'm like, oh, damn. I didn't know. I guess that's why the pressure was on him coming into this year like that.
Yeah, so it was like you expect it. And that's another reason why I know you sat here and we had the argument about Morgan Burnett. Well, if you're doing your thing, and you're Steven Nelson, we talk about Steven Nelson, that contract played a lot because at the time, remember, we said Joe Hayden, because people didn't want to classify him as a traditional free agent signing. They said, if you're not classifying Joe as that, Steven Nelson had the largest free agent signing contract for the Steelers in history. So yeah, you're going to talk about him regardless of, hey man, if he's just doing his job or not, you're going to talk about him. And that played a large reason why we had eyes on Steven. Like, all right, let me just see what that looks like over there. If he's getting paid this, it better look like something. The expectation around him was a lot higher than what Morgan Burnett's was. So that played into why people would talk about him. That played into why.
It took a bit, though. I mean, it
did take a bit.
It wasn't off the bat.
But I'm telling you, though, not most fans, but media-wise, eyes were on Steven Nelson because you said, man, if Joe's getting paid this and Steven's getting paid this, we expect Steven to do stuff. We expect Steven to be locked down. We expect them to not be able to throw at either one of these guys. That was the expectation. People started talking more about Steven Nelson too later on because there came the whole thing of, man, he's great in coverage, but he hasn't got the picks yet. When we're going to see the interception, remember we talked about, man, when's he going to get that inno, man? He deserves it, man. He's been balling out. He's locking down, but he hasn't caught the interceptions. Then he had the one versus, I think it was the Bills. And we're like, okay, yeah, man. It's like he finally got one. So that played into it as well. But the contract that Steven got, that's going to get you talking. But I like the productivity, man. He had the 1 pick, the 8 PBUs, 61 tackles. So that shows me that he was still productive in the run game and he was on an elite defense.
Yeah.
An elite defense. So that's why he's my number 2. And now for Joe, I think it's a clear cut why Joe's number 1. First off, when he signed 3 for $27, he got $7 million to do it. But he's played in 42 games since he's been a Steeler. 8 picks, 148 tackles, 36 PBUs, and he has a Pro Bowl under his belt. Played so well that he's even got a 3-year, $32 million extension that got him $16.8 million on top of that. So when you look at the amount of productivity, you look at the accolades from an NFL standpoint in terms of getting that Pro Bowl. You look at how he changed the face of this defense by being the lockdown corner that he is. All of that for me, man, even though it cost more, that impact is felt greater than D'Angelo's. And that's kind of how I look at it because we saw what it looked like when Joe wasn't out there. Before Joe got here, we saw we were leading the league in sacks, and it was still like, dude, we suck right now because we can't cover anyone. Yeah, and that's why for me it's like I know firsthand before Joe and once Joe got here the impact of that man being out there. So with D'Angelo was always going to be he's the plus one. We got our wife, we got our bride. Our bride is who? Le'Veon. D'Angelo was that's the homie, that's the friend, that's the entourage. And it worked when it needed to. It worked. But for me, man, Joe is the bride. Joe is the person on that defense, man. And for me, man, when you look at the productivity that he's had and everything that he was able to do and is still doing, not he was here for 1 or 2 years and he was gone, still doing it. And that's why for me, when I look at these contracts, when I look at the 3 for $25, when I look at the 3 for $27 and those guys' productivity, and then we go on the flip side to Ladarius Green. Remember that contract? Now do you see the difference? Why I'm so, man, you paying a guy that? I expect that. That's what I expect. Dude, but no.
I mean,
what did you say? What
the
did
difference.
Wait a minute. Because you said it's not that big of a difference, right? $1 million difference. So his 4 for 20, he got 6 in that first year. Steven Nelson 3 for 25. He only got 7.5 in year 1. So that's a $1.5 million difference. You can't tell me that production is a drastically difference between Steven Nelson and Ladarius Green?
Dude,
wait a minute.
We're talking about worst free agent signings with Green, Burnett, and Moncrief. Dude, we're talking about the best ones.
What is the expectation? When I tell you I'm going to give you 4 for 20, you're getting 6 in year 1, I expect the same type of impact that I see from Steven Nelson, the 3 for 25 for 7.5. Because remember, it's only a $1.5 million difference. Not that big of a difference. That's what you told me. You said, man, for Moncrief, it's only $2 million difference. I expect this. So is it wrong for me to expect Ladarius to have the same level of impact as Steven Nelson? Not for 6 games, not for the 2 that you named. Because remember, you say he played 6 games, we only named 2.
No, you're comparing the best to the worst right now, though.
All I'm simply saying is the money is comparable. I'm comparing the money. The money is very comparable. So after I compare the money, then I look at the productivity from both. And it's drastically different. So that's why for me, I put Ladarius as the worst. Moncrief's deal was a 2 for 9.
No,
I'm not expecting
I'm
that.
talking about the...
When I look at Moncrief's deal, I expect, okay, Moncrief deal versus Mark Barron deal. They're comparable. Mark Barron's productivity was a lot better than Moncrief. So for me, I'm like, yeah, that looks fine to me where I have those 2 guys. I put them in class. So if you're in the 4 for 20 range, if you're in that range, you're getting that 20, 25 plus, that's a different ballpark, which is why Mike Mitchell got the rep that he got because of what he was making. If Mike Mitchell had signed for a 2 for 9 and had that predicted, we'd be over here talking about how he was one of the best signers that we would have ever had if he had that. But because his contract was so much more, the expectations are a lot higher. And with those higher expectations, if the productivity does not match it, you're going to go on this list and you're going to be pretty high on this list, which is why for Ladarius, when I look at the money he got versus Steven Nelson versus, I mean, we can legit throw Joe Hayden in there too, because Joe was only a 3 for 27, $7 million. That's a $1 million difference as well.
Wait, that's $9 million.
No, listen up. When Joe Hayden signed the first time, 3 for 27, he only got $7 million. And that first that sign him of that first year, he got $7 million. Then he had the I think it was 800 or 900,000. So it gave him $8 million total. If not even $8 million total, he would have got 7.8 or 7.9 in that first year. So for me, 7.8, 7.9, whatever you want to slice it, compared to Ladarius is $6 million.
That's what we're talking best versus worst though.
But I'm talking, no, I'm not talking about. So what I'm talking right now is money. You talked about the money. You said, man, the 4 for 20, he only got $6 million.
I mean,
Moncrief 2 for 9, 3.5. That ain't that big of a difference. For me, when I'm looking at that number that Ladarius got, my expectation for Ladarius drastically goes up. Moncrief's 2 for 9. We weren't expecting him to be 1,000-yard receiver. If he did, that's amazing. But 4 for 20, I'm expecting you to be the guy. I'm expecting you to go out here and produce. And when I see two guys that did get those similar contracts, you look at the productivity they have versus the productivity of Ladarius Green, and you can't tell me Ladarius Green isn't the worst signing.
It's just hard for me to listen to this and think the expectation is that drastically different when it's $1 million. And you said Moncrief 2 for 9 and then Ladarius Green 4 for 20. Mm-hmm. That's $1 million difference in per year,
bro.
Or not even 0.5.
Listen, Ladarius Green's impact and expectation. The expectation for a 4 for 20, I don't care how you want to make it up over here.
Dude, it's $0.5 million of difference per year.
It's a per year because it's not like that. Moncrief didn't sign. He didn't get 4.5.
No, I know
4.5 year two. So don't say it's only a 4 per year
but
difference, because that's not. It's how it's sliced up each year. The same way Ladarius got $6 million year one, he was gonna get $11 million year two. It's a difference. So don't try to say on a per year, because it's not a per year. We're talking what he was gonna make.
No, you're the one bringing up the numbers. That's why
you just said. You just said it's not that difference on a per year.
No. I know you've mentioned that. Mm-hmm. Per year, the first year for Ladarius Green was $6 million, and whatever Moncrief was like 3.5. Mm-hmm. So you've brought that up in the past, but now you're bringing up the 2 for 9 versus the 4 for 20 whenever they signed in terms of expectations, all that.
Yes.
That's why I say the numbers.
Yeah. And all I'm saying is you have a greater expectation for a guy that's signing for a 4 for 20. The expectation for a 4 for 20.
But that's what I mean. It's hard. How can I fathom that whenever it's only 0.5 difference?
What do you mean? 0.5 difference where? What are you talking about?
Per year.
How? Please help me. Please help me understand. How is it a 0.5 difference per year?
Whenever you're signing the contract, you see the numbers.
Okay.
4 years, $20 million. Ladarius Green. Mm-hmm. You see the number. Moncrief.
2 for 9.
2 9. Yes. 4.5 per year for Moncrief. $5 million a year for Ladarius Green. That's
you just average it out as if every year is going to be the same. I look at the details of the contract and say, how much is he getting in first 2 years? Because that's the most important part. So
that's my question in terms of expectation, though. Who's putting these expectations on him then?
The media, the people who understand the contracts. If I know you're Ladarius Green and you're supposed to get $17 million in your first 2 years, that's a huge expectation. $17 million in 2 years versus that $9 million that Moncrief was going to get in 2 years. You don't see the difference in that?
I don't know who's thinking of this type of expectation.
So if you're getting $17 million, you don't expect more? You don't expect Ben, who's getting 34 this year, to ball out?
No, my point to you is like I just don't think people look into it that much. You just see the raw numbers.
What?
I'm being serious, man.
Well, that's news to me then. Because the people that I talk to, when you see the contract, your expectation for that person drastically increases.
No, I agree with.
So if that's the case, if no one cares
the
about
raw numbers of the 4 year, 20 million, that's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. That's what people see, and it's like, all right.
So they see 20 million, they think 20 million and 9 million are the same then.
No, but I'm saying on a per year basis.
$20 million over 4 years, $9 million over 2 years.
Yeah, but whenever you cut them, how much is that going to affect the dead cap then?
Bro, what are we talking about here, man?
I don't know, dude.
You keep moving around.
No, I'm not moving around.
You are.
No, man, it's you.
I'm telling you right now, the expectation for Ladarius Green, who got 4 for 20, is the same expectation for Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson. Two of those guys lived up to it. One guy drastically failed.
Yeah, but we're already comparing best to worst. I mean, you're talking about the worst signing versus the best.
And then you said, who's creating these expectations? You signing 4 for 20 is the expectation. You getting $17 million in the first 2 years is the expectation. And when you go out here and only give me 6 games, that's trash. What are we talking about?
It was only $6 million then.
Bro. Even with the $6 million that he got, that still is trash compared to the expectation that came with him. I don't understand what you're not getting right here.
No, I'm getting it, but are we comparing it to the best? Because that's what I'm asking. I don't want to compare him to the best. I'm comparing him to the worst guys.
I'm comparing him to the guys that signed the type of deal that was comparable to him.
I'm just trying to compare him to Moncrief and Burnett. That's it.
And his money was drastically higher than those guys.
I don't know. That's kind of where we agree to disagree then. Where I just don't see it, man. I just don't.
Man. $6 million is not drastically different than $3.5 million. Okay, cool.
For what they did on the field,
$6 million is not drastically different than $3.5 million. Okay,
if you're weighing what they did on the field too,
you said it's not drastically different.
I really don't think it is drastically different.
I can tell you a lot of people that would say that is drastically different. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know, man. And if you're adding the factors of the play on the field, you got to add it all together, man.
I'm with you on that.
That's why he's underneath.
I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you on that. All I'm saying is that $6 million. I don't care what you say about Burnett. I don't care what you say about Moncrief. That money, that contract, not enough productivity. Period. Listen, when I can point to two that did get that money, that did produce. Even if we threw Mike Mitchell in it, even Mike Mitchell's productivity was bigger than Ladarius Green's. What are we talking about?
He only played 1 year though. That's my thing. What are we weighing here? We're
weighing a lot. The fact that
how long they're playing,
and you didn't play only 6 games. That's trash.
It's $6 million and done though, dude. It's a year.
So now we're just throwing $6 million away. Cool. That's what you just said. $6 million and done.
versus the other worst signings. Yes, that's why I have him at 3.
$6 million and done.
Versus the other worst signings.
Okay, yes. If we're all worst signings, at least let me save $3 million. That's all I'm saying.
And then do it and put it on what? I don't know. That's the thing. You said I don't know. I don't know. Is there any guarantees there either?
All I'm simply saying is I'd rather just take that money and put it on somebody that maybe could play a little bit more for a little bit less.
There's no guarantees there though either. We're going back in the past. At the end of the
day, the money says what the money says. His availability
and that's what I mean.
Availability says.
And the productivity says what the productivity says.
Exactly.
We know what happened, so I'm good with that. If we're looking in the past, I'm good with all that. That's why I have Ladarius at 3,
and that's why he's my worst. Because of the money he made.
I know. We just don't agree on it, dude.
Yeah, because you don't value. I mean, you said, man, it's only $6 million. Just throw it in the trash. I ain't tripping on it.
Versus the 3.5 for Moncrief and whatever Burnett got. That's what we're
not tripping, bro. Because the expectation was the same for Ladarius Green. Moncrief, it's cool, bro. I'm with you.
If it was Moncrief signing for $900,000 or $1 million bucks, it wouldn't even be in
the expectation was the same. I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.
I mean, he was supposed to be the number 2 guy.
Whereas Ladarius was supposed to be the guy.
I mean, I don't know. 2 tight ends.
Ladarius wasn't supposed to be the guy?
I mean, I was hoping that, yeah.
The expectation wasn't for Ladarius to be the guy. We never had the expectation that Moncrief was going to be the guy.
I don't even care about that, though, because we saw what the productivity was. That's all. I got the 300 yards. Yeah,
So what about the other games then? Because you just naming 2 games. Only one of them he had 100 yards in.
I don't care. I said you span that over 6 games. That's fine with me.
It's not fine with me. That's all I'm saying. For the money he got, it's not fine. Period.
Dude, but with your positive ones, the best signings, I'm with you on everything you said. I can't really argue against it. I was just looking, I guess, more not as long term as you were, just more of value, maybe more on a per year basis. I'm not really sure what I was looking for there, but that's why I got D'Angelo as the one guy.
The reason why, like I said, when I talk,
because I can't argue. I could put any one of these guys at 1 and try to make the argument as to why or why not, and I'm weighing this a little more than the other thing. So I have no disagreements.
Yeah, and I think D'Angelo, like I said, man, he's definitely in the conversation. You could debate how we want to debate it in terms of who should be higher. For me, when all things are equal, I look at the expectation that came around these players and who was out there more. We know with Joe and Steven, those guys were playing 95% of the snaps, sometimes 100% of the snaps. D'Angelo, that wasn't the case. So for me, I can't put him above those 2 guys who were out there every snap doing it, and they had the pressure on them to do it. Whereas D'Angelo, there wasn't no pressure for D'Angelo to come in here and produce. When Le'Veon went down, it was like, oh shoot, we seen how this looked before. All right, let's hope that D'Angelo can be better than Ben Tate. Let's hope D'Angelo could be better than these other guys. Because remember, the year that Ben Tate came, he was the number 1 rated running back free agent that year. He signed, I think it was with Cleveland. Cleveland had gave him the big deal, and then they ended up releasing him. We signed him right at the end, going into that the last game or playoff
Baltimore game.
Yeah. So the expectation for Ben Tate was so much higher because it was like, man, we know this dude. Like, he was supposed to be the guy when he left out of Houston. Like, that was the talk on him. With D'Angelo, it was, well, man, Carolina got rid of him. He's kind of washed up. He don't really got it anymore. It might be a little too heavy, this and that. So nobody really had an expectation for D'Angelo once he got here. Now, once he started producing, it was like, oh, man, this is great. I love it because the expectation was low. But with Joe and Steven, it's like, man, you expected them dudes to come in here and ball because of the money they were paid. And then I feel like in both of these cases, those guys have exceeded those expectations.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them so rare in terms of what they've accomplished and why we have them where they have them ever.
No, I'm good with that, dude. All right. So do we want to move on to our last topic here?
Yes, indeed, man. So now starting a new series. We've, I think this would have been last year. I got my
notes on my phone.
So last year, what we ended up doing, we just posted our all-time team, all-time Steeler offense, all-time Steeler defense. And we didn't really have like a big depth chart, just like one or two running backs, quarterback, whatever. So now what we're going to be doing is doing our all-time team, all legacy team, but we're going to be talking about our top 3 players at each position. So they will obviously rank them and things like that. So today we're going to start with the running back room. And yeah, man, I guess I'll lead it off in terms of the 3 players that I have in their depth chart status. So I have Jerome Bettis as my starting running back. Then it's followed up by Le'Veon Bell. Mm-hmm. And then my third back is Franco Harris. Now, you want to name your 3 and then we'll go ahead. I'll tell you why.
Yeah, sure,
all right, so who are your 3 in the order?
I'll go 3-1.
Man, just tell your daggone starter is, man. He's being all difficult in here.
All right, Le'Veon's 1, Bus is 2, Franco's 3.
I like it. Even though I'm a little surprised because when you did our Steelers all-time team, you have Bus 1, Franco 2.
No,
you had Franco 1.
No,
Bus
I think
2.
you had Franco in there.
I don't know.
You might have had Bell and Franco. Did you have Bell?
I had Le'Veon. I know for a fact I had Le'Veon. You had Bus and Franco.
No. I had Bell and Bus. I had Bell and Bus.
Yeah, because I'm always a Le'Veon dude, man.
Yeah. So wait, did yours change then? Maybe.
I don't know. I thought I could have sworn I looked at yours. I thought yours changed. Yeah, I've always been a Le'Veon dude, man.
I had Bell and Bus. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. But yeah, man. So the reason why I got Jerome starting, obviously, man, the 13,000 rushing yards, 91 touchdowns, 1,400 receiving, 3 touchdowns. I wasn't a fan of the fumbles though. The 41 fumbles that definitely gave me a little bad taste, and similar to with Franco, which is why Franco is my 3rd on my list because he's had 90 career fumbles.
Wait, hold on. Wait, who'd you say had the 40 fumbles?
41 fumbles?
Yeah.
Jerome.
Yeah, I don't know what stats I'm looking at then. I had him at 28 somewhere, but yeah, I mean,
41 career
either way,
fumbles.
yeah.
Franco had 90 career fumbles.
I saw 90 for Franco.
Yeah, and then Le'Veon's at 9. I'm like, bro, I need ball security, man. Like, period.
Yeah. I was really surprised. I couldn't believe when I saw the 90 fumbles.
I said, holy cow. Like, whoa.
Because my whole debate or my whole thing was between Franco and the Bus because their numbers are a lot more similar.
But they both played 13 years.
They played longer. Yes, it's kind of like, what are you looking for? If you're looking for, I'm starting a team tomorrow, I want a guy in its prime for a season, then Bell's the choice. But it's kind of on what you're looking for, and I guess you got to weigh that.
I guess for me, the way I looked at it was this. I said the running numbers, the 12,000 to 13,000 for Franco and Bus, I said with both of those guys back then, they were heavy volume carry guys. We know that.
Bus even more than Franco.
Right.
That was like the 90s.
Yeah, like that was that era. And I said they both played 7 years more than Le'Veon. Le'Veon has essentially half of those rushing yards. But at the same time, Le'Veon, when we look at it from a receiving standpoint, he has more receiving yards than both of these dudes. Yep. One less receiving touchdown. And barring Le'Veon just absolutely like losing ability to hold the ball, I don't see him or anticipating him ever coming close to Jerome's or Franco's fumble numbers.
Yeah.
So that's why for me, I felt like Le'Veon, man, I could argue that he could be the starting running back. But for me, I was like, it's something about the longevity, 13 seasons. We saw Le'Veon's productivity take a hit this year with the Jets offense. So it's hard for me to gauge which that's going to look like going forward. Is he going to stay in the same situation? Is it going to change in New York? Is he going to end up going somewhere else? Who knows?
But then how much are we weighing other teams'
Well,
success?
for me,
are we weighing in the Bus's Rams year?
I put them
Or
all
years,
together.
I'm sorry.
I put it all in together because I said,
Okay.
man, as long as you played your 1 year here, I'm gonna look at your whole career versus just looking at your Steeler numbers.
Okay.
And that was like my whole point with this, because obviously Franco had the last year, I think it was in Seattle, and it wasn't the best. But
I mean, that was last year.
yeah,
You know
but
what I
I'm
mean?
like, man, I still, if we got the yards, got whatever, put it in there. So that's kind of how I looked at it, man. But in terms of, it's hard comparing the different generations, because with Franco, sometimes they classify him as like a fullback. With Jerome, we talked about in the 90s, that style of play
Yeah.
versus the type of athlete that Le'Veon is. Like, neither one of those guys are even close to the type of athlete that he is. But I don't know I personally don't think that Le'Veon is the same type of runner in terms of the bruising style, the war of attrition that Jerome and Franco are.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting question. If you were starting a team in the 80s or 90s versus now.
Yeah. Even though I do feel guys from this generation, it's easier for them to play in those generations, those eras. Whereas I think it's a little bit tough for those era guys to play here. And this is what I'm saying. So with Le'Veon, he's a freak athlete. He can make you miss. That works in any generation. He's average speed here, but back then, he's probably going to be a lot faster than those guys who are doing this. I mean, with Franco's era, those guys weren't doing it full time. This dude trains year round.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's easier for a guy like him to go back then. You think about, even because I know people say, well, some of the receivers are soft nowadays, man. You can't touch them, this and that. Le'Veon's catching the ball out the backfield. All that goes out the window. Now you're looking at some of these linebackers having to play in space versus that. That's different. That's scary. So for me, I think like he could play any of these generations. With Jerome, I wonder, okay, what would that look like now? Would that look like a Brandon Jacobs when he had his hot season with the Giants? Would it look like Jamal Lewis?
Yeah.
Would it look like that one Peyton Hillis year? Like, because now with the way these defenders are, how big they are, how strong they are, how fast they are, you're not just running through these guys.
Who is the big guy right now? Most recently I could think of is Eddie Lacy.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did have a good run with the Packers, but right now, who's like Marshawn Lynch recently too, but he wasn't like Bus or Lacy.
No. And Lacy was like a smaller version of Jerome, man.
Yeah.
Jerome was like
wide,
thick.
Yeah.
Like,
sweetest feet though.
Yo, crazy feet.
Yeah, who's the guy? Is there a guy right now where you're like,
no, man, because most people are leaning towards like leaner, more
just
athletic.
even like a bigger guy though.
Yeah.
That's like the workhorse.
Jeez, no, because
we can move on from this. I'll look it up.
Like Garrett, he could have been in there, but he's not in the league anymore.
It's still not like no Bus. Like Bus would be like an outlier now, like a specialty.
Yeah.
I mean, he was kind of later in his career for the 15-1 season, the Super Bowl run, where we bring him in more for like the goal line.
Right.
Although the 15-1 year, he had like 800 or 900 yards.
Yeah.
He was like 31 or 32. That was like kind of a crazy year. No one was really expecting from him. I'm gonna check the running backs right now.
Because I don't know any bigger body guys who would fit Jerome's style per se.
Yeah, like that's the thing. We're trying to imagine, could he fit in right now? What would he be doing?
Towards like the smaller backs, the guys who can catch out the backfield, the Kamaras, the McCaffreys, Zeke. Because Zeke definitely isn't big like that. I don't think there are any more plus size running backs. Using the word that Zach Mann likes to say, man.
Fournette, no. Ingram, he looks slim though.
No, Ingram is not like that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I can't.
It's a different era.
I can't,
now,
dude.
Man.
Yeah, Henry. I'm just going off the
Henry's like a big back, but
top 10 like rushing yards here. Henry, Chubb, Jacobs, McCaffrey, Elliott, Chris Carson, Dalvin Cook, Lamar Jackson, Kenyon Drake, Marlon Mack, Barkley, Fournette. Dude, yeah, it's like nothing.
Not even close.
Nothing, man.
But I think that's what made Jerome, though, man. The fact that he could be that big, but still be that nimble, have feet that sweet, man, the vision and stuff like that. Like, that's rare.
No, it definitely is. And so what's you have Bell at 2, you have Bettis at 1, and then Franco at 3.
Yeah. For me, like I said, the sole reason why Franco's at 3, man, is the 90 fumbles, bro.
Yeah.
That's a ton of fumbles. And I don't know, obviously, I wasn't watching Franco film growing up.
No.
But it's like, I need to see, like, what was going on with these 90 fumbles, man.
No, yeah.
Like, because that's alarming.
It was, and I thought I was reading the internet wrong.
I thought I read it wrong too, and I'm checking multiple sources. Like, hold on, bro, is that? Whoa, this is for real. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah. So the reason I got Bell 1 versus the other two, my main debate was between Bettis and Franco for the second slot, but I have Bell in front of those guys just based off that he is 2 All-Pros and he has 3 Pro Bowls, whereas the other two, see, that's the thing. Bettis has 2 All-Pros as well, but one of them was with the Rams.
The reason why I didn't even go that route, I said, these are Hall of Famers.
No.
It's like, I'm not about to listen. It's hard for me to say, the
I get
All-Pro versus the Pro Bowls. No, I'm like, bro, these gold jackets.
The only reason I say All-Pro, that means, all right, you're top 3 at your position,
correct,
top 2 at your position. Yeah. So Bell had that 2 times with the Steelers in his young career already, whereas Franco only had that once.
Correct.
Bettis did have it twice, like I said. That I wasn't really considering his Rams years, but his rookie year, I think he was also an All-Pro. But then if you look at that, if you're going Bell Bettis, all right, they have 2 All-Pros, so they were, top 1 or 2 at their position for a certain amount of years. Dude, Bell's like just raw yards is outstanding. Crazy. Whenever you combine the receiving yards and the rushing yards.
The one thing I did too, I started looking at, okay, who had the better one season? Like if we had to go like, whose one seasons were better? I was like, Le'Veon. It was insane.
When you combine it, was
golly.
His 1 year was over 2,200 yards.
Like that's nuts, man.
And then the other 2 wherever he was healthy, because
he was still missing time.
Yeah, because his rookie year he didn't come in till like the 4th or 5th game, and then I think it was his 3rd years when he got hurt and D'Angelo came in, so he wasn't able to put up numbers like that. But the 2 healthy years. The one was in the like 1800s and the other one was in the 1900s when you combine
that 14 season and that I think it was 17 season. Those insane.
Yeah, so that's why
insane, bro.
That's why I got him just above Bus, because he was the best backer in the league for that amount of time.
Absolutely, he definitely was, man. Like clear cut, hands down. Like he was the guy.
I don't know. Maybe this is someone could call us out on it. I don't know if Bettis was ever viewed like
as
that,
like the best running back right now. Because I mean, he still played in a time where you had Emmitt Smith. You had I'm trying to think some of the other like all time great running backs during that era.
But he did have a good like 2 or 3 year stretch. Obviously, the Rams rookie year was crazy, but he had a good like where you're like, all right, this guy's definitely top 3 probably. For the Steelers, I think it was like in the mid 90s.
He retired in 11 or no, he 8. Oh wait, he retired, right?
No. Bettis?
Jerome,
No, 05. It was after the Super Bowl.
Right? That's
40.
What I'm saying. Yeah. Okay, I would say he didn't even play that to. Oh wait, I'm thinking
no.
The Super Bowls before then. So yeah, if he played to 05, I'm trying to think. All right, so 05,
95, 96, 97 is probably
because I'm trying to see.
I can look it up. Yeah,
I'm trying to see how was his overlap from guys like Thurman, guys like I'm trying to think of another back that was during that time, man. Like during those 90s and stuff. That. That's what I'm trying to see. Like, was he in during that time frame? Because it's hard to say that like I said, we knew that Le'Veon was 1 or 2 each year when he was out there. And people started making the conversation about Zeke. They had the 1 year where they tried to bring in David Johnson, but it was still clear cut like, yo, he's the guy. So I'm trying to see, like, compared to those other backs.
I'll pull it up right now because I was looking this up before we got here, but that's kind of my point. Even with Bell versus Bettis, though, even if you have those stretches where Bettis maybe he was top 3 or 4, just the raw ability and the stats that Le'Veon was putting up, both rushing and receiving, season, that's why I would take Bell over Bettis. But hold on, here we go. We got Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, Marshall Faulk, Thomas, Terrell Davis, Curtis Martin, Marcus Allen, although I think he was more 80s. Eddie George. So, yeah, I mean, you got...
So that's my thing. It's like, how do we say, like, with those guys that we're just naming right now, during Jerome's career was... and maybe, like I said, some of the listeners or viewers, they can help us out with this because the older crowd, they're going to know, like, hey, man, we're watching and this guy was viewed as the guy. We know the Le'Veon because we're seeing, like, hey, man, Le'Veon was viewed as the guy in the league. Like, that was... league-wide, clear, like, yo, he's the guy. So I want to know, like, all right, was Franco viewed like that? Was Jerome viewed?
Yeah, Franco, I had Franco's up. You had dudes like O.J. Simpson, Walter Payton.
Juice.
Yeah, that's the thing it's interesting about Franco's career. If you look at it, it was really the longevity versus you have O.J., he had like a 3-4 year run where it was nuts, but then he doesn't have the longevity like Franco. So there's all those different factors. I've been talking about OJ.
I'm like, bro,
Dude,
did you really just?
He was in the list, man.
He had a couple of get in.
Well, I didn't want to say Walter Payton because Walter Payton's just the guy. You know what I mean?
Man, yeah.
You can't really compare to him.
The boy watched what documentary? We getting all the OJ drops for you now, man.
I have been dropping OJ. Dude, so it sounds like you're swaying for putting Bell 1. Are you sticking with the bus's longevity? Okay.
Yeah.
But so that's we just have different reasonings for that. Mm-hmm. But then my thing with Bettis and Franco was, like you said, the 90 fumbles.
Yeah, the ball security, that's
where I was like,
holy cow, what is going on?
I was like, damn. So that was really the main factor because their numbers are pretty similar.
Oh, I mean, and 1,000-yard different in rushing. But Franco, Bus had more rushing. Franco had more receiving yards, more receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't...
Both had 91 rushing touchdowns.
That was really the only knock I had in that argument. I remember at the time, whenever we did the list, I just liked Bettis better. So I put Bettis at number 2. And just, it was more of a feel thing. Like, all right, if I need someone to run the rock, I'm giving it to Bus.
And now I think I remember why I did put Bettis and Franco. I didn't think of if I need a person to go ahead and run the rock right now. I'm looking at all the time and I'm saying these two guys are gold jacket guys. Whereas Le'Veon...
I think you had Bell in it, though.
I don't think so.
Hold on, let me
check. Yeah, because I looked at it last night, man.
We're doing a lot of checking, man.
Yeah.
Oh, let me see.
Because we'd have done that. That would have been like June, maybe. May or June.
Hold on. Hold on 1 second, man.
Because I know Franco was on one of our lists, man. I just don't remember
I think he was on yours, dude.
Yeah.
And then you might have swapped it here. Hold on, let's see. I'm trying to keep this going so I don't have to edit anything out. All right, here we go.
Hey man, everybody does this nowadays, man.
All right, here we go. So mine, I have Bell at 1, Bus at 2.
Mm-hmm.
You have Franco at 1, Bus at 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I thought you had Le'Veon on it, though.
Because for me, I remember saying to myself...
You were just thinking all time.
Yeah, because I'm like, yo, these dudes are gold jacket guys. You're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And until you get that, I can't place you above those guys on a all-time... because that's what we looked at that. We weren't looking at it how we're doing right here in terms of, if we're going out here to play this game right now, who do I need?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think that's how I always look at it.
Yeah, so for me, I look at it like when I say all-time team, just like, okay, best career, each position. That's how I view that list. This right here, I'm looking like, okay, if we're playing in a game and I got to have my depth chart, who am I rolling with? How am I doing it? That's kind of how I do it like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why for me, I'm like, I know Jerome, he's a bruiser. He's going to punish you. Now, we can get into the debate of which era is this game taking place in, but I still feel that Jerome's game, in terms of the bruising, thumping style that he is, I don't care what era you're playing in, that weighs on you.
Yeah.
Like with Franco, we can make the debate, okay, the ball security, he's not as big, he's not as fast, he's not as elusive. So how does that look versus the bigger, better athletes in this generation?
Or even the 90s.
Right, or even in the 90s, right. Whereas with Jerome, it didn't matter when he's playing. That's a load to hit play after play after play. And then I said, okay. But when I look at Le'Veon, I'm like, he's so dynamic, the things that he can do, that carries over as well. And that's kind of how I had him like that.
I think the most interesting era for Le'Veon would be 90s, though. Because that was like, all right, these guys are getting like 400 carries, and it's not passing. It's not, he's getting reception.
Running, yeah.
Because I think 70s he'd be fine, because that's when Franco, OJ Simpson, Walter Payton, these dude, what's it funny? Those dudes weren't built like Bettis or Bettis and Smith and those dudes in the 90s. So I think he would definitely be good in the 70s, probably 80s. Yeah. 90s would be probably most interesting.
Well, and I want to know too, would that coordinator still try to use him behind a fullback dumping downhill like that?
Who?
I'm saying whoever
Bell,
would they use Bell like that in the 90s, because that's how they would
he maybe be a receiver.
Right. And that's some of the things that you have to wonder, like, okay, would he just predominantly be here? Would they flex him out? Would they use him like how we see him now? How he lines up anywhere because of the mismatch that he can create. And that's really the thing that stands out to me and why I had to have him at 2 over Franco.
Yeah. If we're looking at all these areas, I'm just trying to think. Probably the mid 2000s to early 2010, 11, 12 is probably the best mix of all the eras. Would you say? Because now it's way more pass heavy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Although
I feel like,
some of these running back stats are going up a
but
little
they're
bit.
trying to come back to it because remember we talked about how the Patriots, they were the ones who kind of,
You just find the outlier.
yeah, right. The Patriots like reinvented the going back to running the ball because everybody was throwing the ball. Now you're seeing, okay, well, this guy right here, I mean, that's outline in terms of Derrick Henry. We talk about McCaffrey and Kamara, but they still are more of the, they can do it all, just catching the ball, make you miss, whatever it may be, overall impact on the game.
Yeah. So yeah, that's you got anything else with the running backs or the eras or
Man,
like
so
that?
did you have any honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions? No, I didn't even think of it. I know Barry Foster had a crazy good year. I don't really know much about him. He had a really short career. I don't know if it was injuries or what.
Barry had a crazy year. I thought you were gonna go with your boy
Willie P.
Willie P, yeah, man.
I mean, it's those two for sure.
What about Mendenhall?
Mendenhall would be below those two.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, Milwaukee Moore.
No, come on.
Okay, I'm just checking, man. Just checking with you, man. Just checking.
No way, dude.
Got Rocky, Merrill, any of them dudes?
Yeah, probably Rocky after, just for more legacy purposes.
Yeah.
Although he balled out too.
Yeah.
You would have him after Foster and Parker, so Blyer after those two.
Yeah.
I mean, people would probably be hammering me right now. They might even put Blyer over those two.
They would. Some people might put Blyer in that top 3 category because I feel like it's just lightning rod with Le'Veon, man. Some people are like, he didn't do enough. He only playing, you know what I mean, in terms of
Rocky, 4-time Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying, man. You know this conversation, bro.
I mean, I would use the conversation if Rocky was like one of my favorite players for sure. I know how it is. I know how you gotta work things, you know. So Rocky's in the mix. Mendenhall, that's probably my next tier.
That's how I
there.
look at it. Like, it's hard for me. I couldn't put him in order, but I was like Rocky, Barry Foster, and I had Willie P over Mendenhall just because.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Dude,
Mendenhall left a bad taste in our mouth.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, but
if he doesn't fumble and he's balling out, it's a different conversation.
Well, and with him too, like, dude, he was supposed to be the man, which he did have a good year too. Huh? That's what it was. That's what it was, man. He did have a good. I remember he had like maybe 1,400, 1,300 yards, double-digit touchdowns.
Expectation definitely plays a role in it, man.
But yeah, because Willie Parker, undrafted guy coming out of nowhere. But you could definitely see where Parker was limited in certain games where he would only have like 10 or 20 yards. Sure. But then there'd be other games where he's like 150, 200 yards. You're like, damn.
Yeah, but if he hit the home run, you know he can go.
Yeah. So that's actually probably more of a debate, Parker versus Mendenhall. Who would you take there? I don't know anything about Foster. He's probably in that mix too.
But when you look at like just the ones, like when you look at the best seasons,
he had the best season.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And I'm just like, whoa, all right.
So I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's a debate for another day. Like, what's in terms of the deeper running back depth, like the tier 2, tier 2 running backs. Like, how would you rank that? That's interesting.
A gold season?
Huh?
A silver season?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that kind of went down the tubes, man.
Okay. Oh, good.
True. We could do gold players.
I'm just saying. Whoa, hey man. Hey, let's not box ourselves in. But I think that was a fun conversation, though, man.
We could do that. I'm starting to think more and more.
We always cooking over here. You know that.
Because maybe it's kind of like music. Someone makes a song and someone redoes the song better. So like that idea of the ranking a certain season and putting like a player card out. Maybe we put out interesting for the actual player, like a gold tier Steeler player.
See, we cooking it. We cooking that thing, man. It's gonna be good.
Okay,
but yeah, man. So that was our running back edition.
Yes,
we haven't. I will tease y'all and let y'all know next week.
Did you skip quarterbacks on purpose?
I wouldn't say on purpose.
We don't. Yeah, we don't need to talk about it. Really.
Well, because my thing is, I was like, the reason why I put 3 instead of 2, because I was like, if we just do 2, I feel like even at the quarterback room, it's only going to be Ben and Terry.
Yeah.
But when you have to put that third guy, now we could really debate who that third guy would be.
Actually, that would be a good debate, the third guy.
And that's the whole purpose of it. So even when we go to the other positions,
because you picked Bennett quarterback anyway, too.
Did,
So. Okay.
I'm a Ben guy. Like,
I know. Yeah. That's what I mean. There wouldn't be much of a going back and forth.
So that's what I was like. So I'm always thinking like, okay, what can make us have more conversation? What can make the listeners and the viewers say, man, I want to talk this, or I think that person over that. Whereas in a situation like that, even when we get to the coaches, we're going to get into that too. if we just name just the one guy, it's like, it ain't the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the whole purpose of it, man.
I mean, whenever we do get the quarterback, I guess we could talk about why we have Ben over Bradshaw.
Right.
You know what I mean? We could talk about that.
Well, because Ben was my teammate. I had the most wins with Ben. And at the time when I was on the team, Bradshaw said that Coach T was a cheerleader, and that kind of rubbed all of us the wrong way. So that's, I mean, yeah. Well, we'll get into that even more though when we get to those.
For sure.
But
I'm in no rush to talk about quarterback.
Oh, of course not. That's why you brought it up.
We don't. No.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
No, we already know where we both stand now. Yeah. You obviously brought up it for you, but
either way, man, we'll get into these other positions, man, as this podcast continues on. And for all the listeners out there, make sure y'all staying safe, man. Regardless of how serious or unserious you want to take this coronavirus situation, man, just make sure that you're washing your hands, you're practicing your social distancing, you're using the Lysol sprays or whatever else you need to do. And other than that, man, just enjoy this time, man, and keep listening to us and keep watching us, baby. So
absolutely. Stay tuned. We appreciate you for listening.
And until next time, baby.
Peace.